What's up, everybody? It's Keith at Vitality Sports Solutions. I wanted to do a deeper dive on the hip thrust and some of the variations we use and how to plug it into your training, sets, reps, all that good stuff. So first, let's just go over the basic hip thrust, and then we'll go over some of the ways we make it a little bit more challenging and different ways that we load it, all right? So the hip thrust is a bilateral, so both legs, hip extension exercise. It's a great way to train your glutes in the shortened position, right? So it's not going to bang you up and make you super sore like, say, a bunch of lunges or squats would. Those are going to work your glutes, but in a lengthened position. Again, this is just a shortened position. So the first way to scale this is just your standard hip thrust. Now setting up, you want to make sure what you're hinging off of is below your shoulder blades. So that's step one. Once you've adjusted to that height, we can then work on the legs. So the legs want to be feet about just outside of your hips, and your shins should be vertical when you're in hip extension. So shins should be straight up and down. Now, if you find yourself feeling it a lot in your quads, that usually means your feet are too close to your butt, so too far back. And if you feel your hamstrings too much, your feet are probably too far out in front of you, okay? So again, you want your shins to be vertical, straight up and down while we're in hip extension. So that's kind of phase one. Phase two would be a single leg version of that, okay? Everything is pretty much the same, vertical shin, driving through the heel, hip extension just with one leg versus two. Now you may need to move that leg you're using kind of center on your body, but we're trying to keep our hips pretty still. We want them to stay pretty neutral. So those are the two body weight versions of the hip thrust. Next, I would get into the band around the leg version. So for my clients that struggle with this exercise, with feeling it in their glutes, usually as soon as we throw this band on, that problem goes away. So everything is the same. We're wearing a band now above the knee. It's going to force me to abduct, push my knees out while I'm going in and out of hip extension. Okay, pushing through the heels as such. So sets of 20 or so there, maybe 3 sets of 20. You can throw it in a warm-up or just for extra reps. Now, before I go to using like a barbell or a dumbbell, I'll go with 2 bands. And this just kind of helps my clients learn how to feel their glutes, because if you haven't done glute training much, it's kind of a tough muscle to feel. Now, once I throw these bands on, there should be no problem feeling your glutes. The big thing is when you're using this band, the one that goes around your hips, you still want to make sure you're getting into hip extension, all the way up, all the way down. Generally, it'll be 3 sets of 30 here, and we will progress until we reach my heaviest band, which is a 150-pound band. Once we're able to do that 150-pound band for 3 sets of 30, we would then move on to, say, a dumbbell or a kettlebell, and it just rests in your lap. Same movement. You could do that with the band or without, but loading it this way. And then once we've done a few weeks of that, we would then bring a barbell in. Now, we have some specialized equipment here made from BC Strength. So the hip thruster, I have thruster plates, which are a little bit taller and helps to make the bar roll over your legs a little bit easier. Now, not everybody's going to have that kind of specialized equipment. So what you can do first, if you're interested in getting started, is just purchase one of these bands. I get mine, like I said, BC Strength. I've always used them. But you can buy any kind of knockoff version of this, is fine, on Amazon. Start with that, okay? Because you can do a ton of other exercises outside of hip thrusts. With this, you can do standing, lateral steps here. So standing hip abduction. You could do single leg, hip abduction. And if you wanted to hip thrust and say you didn't have a bench or a hip thrust, you could always use a ball. Let me just make sure you can see me here. And you would set up pretty similarly. You'd want the ball to be kind of underneath your shoulder blades. You would have your band on, you would push through your heels there, and it's a great place to start. So again, hip thrusts, body weight with both legs, so bilateral body weight, maybe say 3 sets of 20. Then single leg, 3 sets maybe of 10 per leg, then graduate to 15 per leg, then 20 per leg. Once you feel good there, let's throw the band on, 3 sets of 20, right? We're keeping the reps kind of high because the loading is relatively light. It's essentially body weight and a band, okay? So 3 sets of 20 there. Then we start adding the second band, so 1 around the legs, 1 around the hips. And I pretty much go right into 3 sets of 30 at that point because we've already been hip thrusting for a few weeks. So the movement pattern shouldn't feel foreign. It should feel relatively comfortable. So once we throw the band on, it's all about increasing the intensity through loading, and total volume will increase. Once we graduate from the bands, then we'll move on to dumbbells, kettlebells, and barbells. But I like to get the band work in first. It really helps you to feel your glutes, so make sure you're doing this exercise correctly. If you're going into overextension, you'll start feeling it in your low back, and that's not what we're looking for, okay? Now, this isn't the only way to train glutes. We do, most of our sessions are training total body, so we like to hit the glutes several times in a week, and I can't do lunges and squats every session. You're just gonna be too sore, you'll be a little too banged up. So I can do one session where we're doing heavy split squats, I could do one session where we're doing hip thrusts, and then I can do another session where we're doing lunges, right? So I can vary it. This one's not gonna bang you up too much, so if I put it in the middle of the week, it's a great way to keep getting volume on the glutes, but without hindering the rest of your week's workouts. Because if you've done a bunch of walking lunges, you know that you'll be pretty sore for a few days. So throwing hip thrusts into your program is great. Don't be afraid of it. You don't need much to get started. You can do just body weight stuff. Another simple variation of this I forgot to mention is you could elevate your feet as well as your torso. Now I know I have all this specialized equipment, so it's a little bit easier for me, but you can just use 2 benches at your gym or whatever you have. You know, if you can't do this, that's okay. You could also invest into some equipment for your home. But you would set up the same way, okay? Except my feet are now elevated. I'm still doing my hip thrust, but my range of motion has just increased dramatically, right? So probably wouldn't do this with any weight, but you could definitely do it with bands. So just another fun variation for you to throw into your training, okay? So just remember, hip thrusts with the bands, keep the reps high. Once you get to loading with weight, barbells and dumbbells, start bringing the reps down, right? As the weight increases, bring those reps down. Don't be afraid to do max effort sets. I personally never got anything out of 1 rep maxes on hip thrust, neither of my clients. So we generally don't go less than 5 reps on this, but you know, to each their own. Feel free to throw it in and do a max effort every once in a while. Okay, so that's your hip thrust. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. Feel free to ask questions in the comments. I'd love to help you out and do a deeper dive on more specific things if you need me to. Okay, so let me know. Thanks for watching. We will see you next time.